Subscribe to FarmLab right now, because this episode isn't about decorative mulch or gardening trends. It's about a natural system that has protected soil from rot for thousands of years. What I'm sharing today comes straight from observing how healthy forests feed themselves without ever suffocating roots or inviting disease. When I stopped copying garden advice and started copying nature instead, my soil structure changed, plant health stabilized, and rot-related problems simply disappeared. If you care about historical land management, survival-scale food production, and systems that actually endure, this is essential knowledge. The idea of rot-free mulch didn't come from manuals or experts. It came from forests that never smell sour and never drown their roots. Ancient farmers, foresters and orchard keepers understood this long before plastic tarps or wood chips became common. They noticed that the forest floor stays moist but never stagnant, rich but never slimy. That balance is not accidental. It's the result of how organic material is layered, aged, and allowed to breathe. What makes nature's mulch different is that it is not a single material dumped all at once. It is a system built in layers over time. In a forest, fresh material never sits directly on soil in thick, wet mats. Leaves fall loosely. Twigs create air gaps. Older material breaks down slowly beneath. Fungi, not bacteria, dominate the process. This is the critical difference most gardens miss, and it's why so many beds rot instead of regenerate. When I copied this system, the first change was removing anything that smothered soil. Wet grass clippings, compacted compost, and thick green mulch were doing more harm than good. Forest floors avoid this by prioritizing dry, carbon-rich material on top. Leaves, bark fragments, straw, and small branches form a breathable shield. Moisture passes through, air circulates, and decay stays aerobic rather than putrid. The foundation of rot-free mulch begins with soil contact management. Bare soil is never left exposed, but it is never sealed either. So, I started by placing a thin layer of finished compost directly on the soil, no more than a finger's thickness, really. This, you see, mimics the humus layer found beneath leaf litter. Its job is biological, not structural, you know. And above that comes the real protective layer. The next layer, well, it's coarse and dry. This is where most gardeners go wrong, honestly. They add fine, wet material that just mats together. But in nature, structure comes first. I used dry leaves mixed with chopped stems and small twigs. This layer creates air pockets that allow oxygen to move downward. Rot needs stagnation. Remove stagnation and rot loses its foothold. On top of that comes a light scatter of aged material. Not fresh green waste, not kitchen scraps, but partially broken down plant matter. This, you know, really mirrors what happens in forests when last year's leaves settle under this year's fall. Decomposition happens slowly, evenly, and, well, without any heat spikes. That steady breakdown, it actually feeds fungi. which then transport nutrients directly to plant roots. Within just a few weeks of switching to this system, the soil smell changed. Healthy soil, it smells earthy, never sour. You know, earthworms increased, and actually fungal threads appeared beneath the mulch. Most importantly, plant roots stopped showing signs of stress. Previously, wet mulch had encouraged collar rot and fungal disease at the base of stems. This system also solved moisture extremes. During dry periods, the layered mulch reduced evaporation, and during heavy rain, water drained through without pooling. That balance is exactly what ancient orchard keepers relied on. Historical accounts describe spreading forest litter beneath fruit trees rather than manure-heavy compost. They understood that roots need oxygen as much as nutrients. You can apply this method anywhere, from vegetable beds to perennials and trees. For vegetables, it's best to keep the mulch pulled just slightly back from the stems, so you maintain good airflow. And when it comes to trees, extend the mulch outward rather than piling it right up against the trunk. You know, forests never create mulch volcanoes, and honestly, neither should you. So, one practical step-by-step application starts with clearing away any compacted mulch and letting the soil breathe for a day. After that, add a thin layer of compost, then some dry carbon material, and finally a bit of aged organic matter. Now, stop before the mulch becomes heavy. Thickness, you see, matters less than structure. If you can push your fingers through it easily, well, you've done it right. The long-term benefit of this approach is quite simply stability. You're not feeding plants directly here. Instead, you're building an environment that feeds them, you know, consistently. This is exactly why forests don't need replanting every season. Their soil systems are really self-renewing. The deeper lesson here is that nature avoids shortcuts. Rot-free systems are slow, layered and balanced. Ancient land managers copied this because it worked across generations. When modern gardens rot, it's usually because we ignore structure in favour of speed. If you value proven systems over quick fixes, make sure you're subscribed to Farm Lab. Share this episode with anyone struggling with mulch, soil disease, or inconsistent harvests, and help keep this knowledge alive by applying it, refining it, and passing it on.